All right, everybody, it is that time of year. Wimbledon 2022 draw is out. We are going to break down in this video the men's draw where we got Djokovic, the three-time defending champion, six-time total champion, coming in to defend his crown on Wimbledon, and Nadal winning the first two slams of the year, trying to make it 3 in a row. Quick look at their draws. I think Djokovic has got the easier draw than Nadal, so we're going to break those down as well as those of Berrettini, Hurkacz, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Alcaraz, all the contenders here on the slice presented by PointsBet Canada. Let's get into the madness. All right, people, welcome to the show. Are you excited? Do you feel the buzz in the air? I feel it. Wimbledon, I will not be there this year. I'm up in Switzerland commentating and analyzing, taking a look from above, watching all of it go down here in the Slice International Studios. So thank you for being here. If you're new, make sure you like this video, helps us out, and subscribe, and consider joining our channel for some behind the scenes extra content during Wimbledon by clicking the join button or on Patreon. The draw is out and it is big time. As always, massive draw, so many things to look at, get into. The top 8 seeds, if you didn't know, we'll break them down for you. We got Djokovic, we got the seeds all here. We got Djokovic 1, Nadal 2, Ruud 3, Tsitsipas 4. Big thing there is Ruud number 3. He literally said grass is for golfers. He doesn't like golf, grass, he loves golf, but he doesn't really feel like he has much of a chance at Wimbledon, and I don't think a lot of people do, but he's the number 3 seed. So the 5th seed is Alcaraz, 6th seed is Felix, 7th seed is Hurkacz, and 8th seed is Berrettini. The 5 to 8 seeds are really danger quarterfinal matchups for the top 4 seeds. So before we get any deeper, shout out to PointsBet Canada, the presenting sponsor for our Wimbledon coverage from the Slice this year. They've supported the Slice, so if you're in Ontario, Canada, and you want to bet on the tennis at Wimbledon, you have to do it on PointsBet Canada. Amazing platform. And the odds, the outright odds for the men's to win Wimbledon this year, the top 4 favorites are Novak Djokovic at 1.77. Pretty high favorite for him. Matteo Berrettini at 6-1. He's a second favorite ahead of Nadal. They have Berrettini, pretty interesting. And then they got Nadal at 8.5. And remind you, this is after the draws come out, so things would have changed. And then the 4th highest odds for them is 11-1 for Carlos Alcaraz. Very interesting. I'm just going to take a quick look at who's next, and that would be Hubert Hurkacz at 17-1, and then Felix Auger-Aliassime at 21-1. So interesting stuff there. Thanks, PointsBet Canada. Now, I think the way to set this up the best, and if you haven't watched our previews before, I always take a look at the potential quarterfinals. Not because of the matchups, but mostly because it shows where these players are in the draw. And then we can look at, round 1 matchups, routes to the final for Djokovic and Nadal, and potential, dark horses and stuff like that. So the quarterfinals are set up like this. We got Djokovic potentially playing Alcaraz on the top in the quarterfinal. Super interesting. Again, nobody can wait for that matchup to happen. So potentially it could happen. We really thought it would in Monte Carlo, but that was a couple months ago. But the drama, Alcaraz's power has even gotten bigger since then. So that would be amazing. Then we got Ruud versus Hurkacz in the quarterfinal number 2. So Ruud, chances of him getting there are not super high, but Hurkacz, he's very dangerous at Wimbledon, and I expect him to be very dangerous this year. Berrettini versus Tsitsipas on the bottom half, which is big news. Berrettini versus Tsitsipas, I'd say Berrettini, one of the massive contenders, not on Djokovic's half. Berrettini versus Tsitsipas, and then Felix Auger-Aliassime versus Nadal, another matchup that I could not wait to see if it happens. A rematch of their 4th round at Roland Garros, where, as I've talked about, Felix charged the net like an absolute stallion, trying to take Nadal out, and I think at Wimbledon that would just be accentuated. I'd love to see the over-under, potentially bet on that, on how many times Felix approaches the net. We'll see. So that kind of sets the stage. And what are the big notes there? Well, Djokovic is on the top, obviously, as the number 1 seed. Nadal's on the bottom as the number 2 seed. And Berrettini, who I think is the most dangerous player outside of those 2 guys, is on the bottom half, as well as Felix, who's also very dangerous. But then we got Hurkacz, who's very dangerous, and Alcaraz, who's pretty dangerous on the top half. So it's kind of equal, I would say, as far as dangerous players on Djokovic or Nadal's half, but I think when we get into the potential routes to the final and we kind of look at some of those lower seeds, to me it shows that Nadal has a harder path to the final than Djokovic does. So let's get into those routes to the final for Djokovic and Nadal. For Djokovic, it's in round 1. It's Kwan, so he shouldn't have a problem with that. Maybe give him some good rhythm. Round 2 could be a little tricky with Thanasi Kokkinakis, friend of the show. Then in round 3, he could play Serbian Kecmanovic if he gets there. Round 4 could be tricky for him if Riley Opelka finds some form and is able to get through on the grass. Riley Opelka on the grass, you never know. He could just hit 1,000 aces and Novak wouldn't touch the ball. So that could be a very, very tough matchup, but you obviously got to take back Nole if he's playing his best tennis against really anyone here on grass for sure. That's kind of to the 4th round. Some tricky matches. Opelka's definitely a test if Opelka's playing well, but it could be harder, I think. Quarterfinals, Alcaraz, as we said, that would be an amazing matchup. And there's a really big question mark, though, to see how Alcaraz will be able to play on the Wimbledon grass. His level, what will it be like compared to grass or clay? He did tell me, though, last year, if you haven't heard me say this, Alcaraz likes faster surfaces than slower surfaces. So we could see how that matchup would go against Djokovic. And if it got really physical, it would be very interesting. And then semifinal, Hubert-Hurkacz, most likely. Which again would be tough as Hubert is serving huge. He's hitting his forehand better than he's ever hit it seems, when he just won Halle, beating Dino Medvedev in the final, and comes forward, transition game, very nice on grass, made the semifinals last year. So yeah, that could be a super tough semifinal based on this field, which in general is not very tough, but Hurkacz out of that is one of the tougher semifinals. And then you got the final, either Nadal or Berrettini probably in the final. So that route, though, in my opinion, Djokovic has had tough draws in other parts. Obviously, he had a tough draw at the French. He's had a lot of tough draws recently, but at Wimbledon specifically over the last 3 or 4 years that I can remember, very easy draws. To me, this is like a pretty easy draw. Typically, last year, the way that it turned out, his route to the final was unbelievably easy. Even the final, none of these. I think in the 4th round, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, he was playing somebody who had never made that level of Wimbledon before. So Djokovic is the absolute best grass court player on the planet right now, and he's being assisted with, I think, a little bit easier draw this year than Nadal. But of course, this could all change. It could open up because I think Nadal's right now, as we look at it, is pretty tough. So let's take a look at that. Nadal, first round, could play Cerundolo. Shouldn't be an issue. Round 2 could be Sam Querrey, who is like an upset legend at Wimbledon. Obviously, took out Djokovic, I think, in 2016 or 17. Then Sonego could be tough as well. Played pretty well last year against Federer. And then it gets really tough, I think. Marin Cilic, Wimbledon finalist. He can play amazing on grass. And Marin Cilic, I think, is going to be a super tough out. If he's playing well, if he's playing huge like he was at the French on grass, that's honestly, to me, a pretty even matchup. Nadal, Cilic on the grass. So that will be super interesting. And then if Nadal gets through that, then he could potentially play Felix Auger-Aliassime, which again, I think Felix coming in the net with the serve. Hubert-Hurkacz was quoted in saying he was literally just guessing where the serve would go for Felix because he was serving so well in Halle, and Hubert was able to come through. I think 2 tiebreakers, but that's super tough for Nadal as well. Felix Auger-Aliassime, these are all just tall guys who hit huge, and then he's got potentially Berrettini in the semifinals. Like, it just doesn't get easier; it gets harder. Berrettini made the final last year. He's got that odd. He's an odds favorite over Nadal. So, and then he would have to play Djokovic in the final. So, really, the chances of Nadal winning this to me are pretty low, and honestly. It would blow my mind. I mean, if Djokovic would have to lose early, I think, maybe he wouldn't. He could get through Berrettini with just his experience on grass, but to me, this is a tough ask for Rafa Nadal, and people are talking about, oh, now he can make the Grand Slam, he can win all 4 in the year. That's going to be tough, especially with this Wimbledon draw. In my opinion, we got the Wimbledon balls behind me. We got the grass. I don't know, people. What do you think about the draw routes for Djokovic, for Nadal? Do you agree with me that Djokovic is probably like slightly easier, not like crazy easier, but it's definitely easier than Nadal's? What do you guys think? Let me know. Now let's just quickly look a little bit deeper into the quarters of each guys. In the top quarter of Djokovic Alcaraz, the next 2 top seeds are Sinner at number 10 and Opelka at number 15, and Andy Murray. So Andy Murray's in that mix. Andy Murray is on the 8th of Alcaraz, so potentially he could be a quarterfinal matchup for Djokovic instead of Alcaraz if that was to happen. And to be honest, I saw Andy Murray play really good tennis at the Boss Open, making a final, losing a close one to Berrettini. Murray does have the little ab injury, but he looks like he's playing very, very good grass tennis. So that would honestly not blow my mind. I know we would get all the English fans going nuts to see, or the Scottish fans, or the British fans, whatever you want to say. If Murray got to the quarterfinals, that's a potential quarterfinal matchup, Djokovic versus Murray. Sinner's also in there sneaky, and as I said earlier, Riley Opelka, super danger match if he's playing well versus Djokovic in the 4th round. In the Ruud Hurkacz quarter, we got Pablo Carreño Busta and Cam Norrie. Cam Norrie is in the Hurkacz 8th, so that's a danger matchup for Hurkacz big time. Cam Norrie's very crafty. It's, to me, unbelievable how much he's just brought his game up from a few years ago when he was, I thought, just like a pretty average, middle of the road, 50, 60 ranked player to now be one of like the top 15, top 10 players in the world. Unbelievable. And on his home turf, he'll have all the crowd behind him, so that would be a danger match for Hurkacz, potential 4th round matchup there. And then in the Berrettini-Tsitsipas 3rd quarter, we've got Diego Schwartzman and Denis Shapovalov. Denis Shapovalov, 6-match losing streak, worst of his career, probably slump right now, needing a win. I think he can get that. He plays Rinderknecht from France in the 1st round. I just think over 5 sets, you've got it back. Maybe Shapo can lighten up now and play without the pressure, just knowing that there's no points. He can't defend his points. It's done. He's going to drop to somewhere in the 20s after this tournament. Maybe he can just swing for the fences in a controlled way and just make a run here. I think he's definitely going to get out of the 1st round. I would back him for that big time. But also who's in that quarter, you guys know who he is. He's the Batman. He's the dark horse of Wimbledon. People, the rumble, no one wants to see him in his section of the draw. Nicholas Kyrgios from down under. King Kyrgios is in that quarter, and he could play Tsitsipas in the 3rd round. So Tsitsipas is not loving that. He probably has seen that already, and he's probably thrown out a few swear words, as I would. So that's a super danger match for Tsitsipas already, but I think if those guys were to play and Tsitsipas can make it physical over 5 sets, he's a better athlete. He's a much more in shape athlete at this point, so we'll see. But Kyrgios could blitz him as he's a more crafty and I would say skilled grass court player at this point. Felix, and then in the last quarter we got Fritz or Cilic, as I say. Fritz is playing Musetti in the 1st round. That's an interesting matchup. And then other notable round 1 matchups. A big one, Sinner versus Wawrinka. That's deadly. And as I already mentioned, round 3, Tsitsipas versus Kyrgios. So what do you think, people? That's I'd say a pretty good reaction to the draw. I think Djokovic has a favorable draw route to the final to get his 7th Wimbledon, 21st Slam, stop the rot of the distance that Nadal's gaining in the total slams race. So what do you guys think? Who would you bet on to win if you're going to do it and you're in Ontario? Obviously use PointsBet Canada, our presenting sponsor, and stay tuned to everything The Slice. Follow me on Twitter at TheSliceSteven. Follow our new main account at TheSliceTennis on Twitter for updates on the tournament. And that's the draw. I will see you guys in the comment section to break it all down. Let me know what you think, and we will watch this tournament as it unfolds. I can't wait.